It's hour two of Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com, and that means, Vince, are you ready for rapid fire?
Whoa, hour two, baby. Rapid fire. Here we go. Got some good stuff today.
It is
some
here.
real good stuff. A little troll action potentially. I'm excited.
All right. I like it. Let's see where it goes. So let's talk about officiating, Vince. For the second straight week, the ACC crew that was working the Notre Dame game was brutal. Marcus Freeman said after the game that they send in clips of plays to the ACC office or whatever other conference the officiating crew comes from to have a look at. I asked him today what that process is like, how quickly they get a response, what the dialogue is like, how often, how quickly the feedback comes back, and how often they get, a response that says, hey, maybe we got this one wrong. So here's what Marcus Freeman said.
We usually get the response back by Wednesdays. But, it can be as black and white as saying we agree with why we called it and here's what we saw, or, no, you're right, we missed it, right? They own it. If they missed a call, they'll say they missed a call. And then some is, here's why we called it. We can understand where you're coming from, but here's why we called it. And there's got to be some human element to it, too. It's not perfect, right? We want our officials to be perfect. They're not perfect. We want our players to be perfect, not perfect. But it's the dialogue and the clarification, I think, that's more important than anything, is the ability to say, hey, we got it right, and this is why we got it right, or we got it wrong, and we own it, and we're apologetic about it, and we'll try to be better. And so that's kind of how that dialogue goes.
It's interesting, Vince. You can't be perfect, but, I think the ones that were magnified the most were the two, reviews that they did within just a few minutes of each other. You kind of do expect perfection there because you get to break down, like was Zapruder-esque, you get to break the whole thing down. So I don't know. What'd you think of what you heard from them, from Marcus Freeman, first of all?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that there is a dialogue there, that they even allow, teams to send in clips and be upset about calls and things like that. And it sounds like, and at least going off of what Marcus Freeman said, it sounds like there is a actual dialogue. They don't just put up a wall like, okay, you can send us your clips, but we're not going to do anything about it. It sounds like they do have a back and forth. My issue is that stuff should be public. They should have to publish that. Like,
I think so too.
You know what I mean? Like, there should be some public accountability.
You do every once in a while. You'll hear like ACC reprimands officiating crew or whatever. That kind. But that's like worst case if it is really, really bad. I agree with what you're saying, and I think that there are times when a call is made. You don't hear about it, I don't think, as much in college football, where you'll hear like like a pool reporter will get to go ask, questions about a certain call, or, that was made or those kind of things. I think that whoever the crew chief is for every officiating crew should have to hold at least a 10-minute press conference after every game. Like, not just answer to one person. You should have the cameras on you, and you should have to answer for the things that you and your crew did in that game.
Agreed. And if things go well, nobody's going to ask any questions, and you can go about your day.
Yeah.
If they go the way they've gone the last couple of games for Notre Dame, there's going to be some people asking some questions, and I think there should be. Again, it's about accountability, and we live in a world right now where there's not much accountability, and that bothers me in a lot of other areas, but it definitely bothers me here as well. Like, you make a mistake, own up to it. Be a man. Say you got it wrong. We're human, okay? Right. But to your point, with replay, you shouldn't be getting these calls wrong.
No.
You shouldn't be. It's right
There's zero excuse.
Yeah.
And Terry McCauley had the tweet about, like the fact that he could not believe that what was ruled a catch by Terrell Anderson was not overturned. Like, he said that's, was like one of the worst things that he has ever seen. And that's like, I wonder what the over-under is on the number of times that they've gotten feedback from an AC officiating, like ACC officiating, saying, we got a wrong call. It feels like the number would be pretty high, because At this point, it just feels like you could go get a blind squirrel who reads Braille and stick them in the booth, and they're going to do a better job at replay review than what we've seen the last few weeks.
The percentages will be probably better because it's a 50-50 shot on whether you get it right or wrong, and they've gotten it wrong way more times than they've gotten it right.
Yeah.
That's the problem. And it's embarrassing is what it is. Like, I understand, like, I get it if there's human error and you make mistakes, but that's why they have instituted replay.
I get it. Like, you don't see a holding call, you miss a pass interference, like those things are going to happen. Like, there are only so many officials, their eyes are, like missed calls like that are going to happen. But once you go and use the camera and you're looking at all these different angles, how can you butcher that so badly? I don't understand how you can butcher that so badly. And the three most egregious calls were, again, there was the no call on pass interference on CJ Carr's interception in the end zone. Well, not a no call, an overturn.
Yeah, they called it.
They threw a flag on the play and said pass interference. Then they conferred for a minute and they said there's no flag on the play. So there's that one there, on Malachi Fields in the end zone. There is the pass that was caught by Terrell Anderson that replay didn't reverse to an incomplete pass. That's the one Terry McCauley was tweeting about. And then there's the Christian Gray interception just a couple plays later that was called an incomplete pass because of an interception. So which of those three do you think, Vince, was the most egregious?
Man, honestly, it was the catch that was not overturned. That was the most egregious to me because it was the most obvious when they went to replay. Like 3/4 of the ball was on the ground and it was very clear.
And the ball was moving.
Correct. Like in no world, in no parallel universe where the rules are the same, is that a catch? Like that was so obvious that it wasn't a catch. I would say second would be the pass interference. The thing about pass interference is it is a judgment call. Like the catch or no catch, it's not a judgment call. It either is or it isn't, and that clearly wasn't. PI is a judgment call. Now, it was pass interference. I mean, we got the picture. We can show it to you.
Here's the picture. I'm putting it up in the YouTube stream right now. You can see the ball is in the air. There are three defenders there. One of them is wrapping his arms around Malachi Fields in the back of the end zone. That's obviously where the flag was initially thrown for pass interference. And then one of the, I think it's number 2 there, ends up getting the interception. And there's a flag in the end zone. They confer and they say, no, this is not pass interference. So it's not even the guy, this is textbook pass interference. And that's why this is the most egregious to me, because they threw a flag and then picked it up.
Yeah.
Because it's not even a guy who's making a play at the ball. In no world is he making a play on the ball. He is playing the receiver. His face is to the receiver. His back is to the ball. He wraps his arms around Malachi Fields, and then someone else makes the interception. In what world do you change? Do you guys get together and you say, no, that wasn't pass interference? Like, what's the case for that? That's why this is the worst to me, because they had to get together and talk about it and then picked up the flag.
It's very difficult for me to disagree with you on that part of it, because they had the right call and then without even replay or anything else overturned it essentially. And it was a big turning point in the game as far as, it went from being, a first down and Notre Dame keeping the ball to being an interception. I mean, that's just bad. And it was a 4th down, obviously. So it was just a very, 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 very bad call. And
Justin is saying, are they saying it was uncatchable? Well, the ball would have been catchable if Malachi Fields hadn't been interfered with.
100% it would have been catchable.
I mean, it was obviously catchable by somebody right in front of Malachi Fields. He wasn't permitted to make a play on the ball because he was interfered with, literally.
Which is the definition of pass interference. I mean, the guy left his feet in that picture. He is not on the ground. He has left his feet and is barreling his way through the receiver. That is textbook pass interference. He's not even on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's So, first you've got that, and then you had the Anderson catch that should have been overturned. And if you brought in someone who doesn't even know football and told them to look at that play and say, okay, I want you to look at this. Here's all you need to know. The ball can't hit the ground for it to be considered a catch. What do you think that person is going to say?
I'm speechless when it comes to these calls because I just don't understand how you can make them. I get the least egregious of them all was probably the Gray interception that they overturned or whatever.
That was one where
it looked an awful lot like an interception to me.
If it had been called an interception, I don't think you could overturn it. But again, based on what we saw on the Anderson catch, who knows what they actually would have called, because there was no clear where exactly the ball was because of the camera angles. You just couldn't really see.
And that's why it's the least.
It sure looked like a catch because what you didn't see though, like on the Anderson catch, you saw that ball move as it hit the ground. What you never saw on any angle with Christian Gray is any ball movement.
Correct.
And that to me means his hands were underneath it and it was secured between his hands and his chest. And that's why you never saw any ball movement. Now, again, by the letter of instant replay, you probably can't overturn it as a result.
And it was called incomplete on the field.
Right. So you had to uphold it, but there's just no way that the Anderson catch should have stood. There's just how instant replay can look at that. And I guess we talked last week a little bit, Vince, about how the ACC in these conference games on ESPN, they're letting you inside the review process and letting you hear what they're talking about, what they're looking for, all these different things. Do you think this just needs to become mandatory across college football, or everyone is required to do this?
Again, the accountability piece. I want to hear your thought process on this. And if you're going to get it wrong, I want to know why you think you're right. It's accountability. And then we can pick that argument apart. I would have loved to hear the conversation that they had for the catch that wasn't a catch. What are they looking at? Because NBC paused it multiple times where it showed the ball laying on the ground. What makes you what tells you that that's a catch? Because not only that, when you play it in slow motion, you see the ball moving around as well.
Well, yeah, you can see the tip of the ball is down, because part of the ball is still on his hands, but the tip of the ball is on the ground and it's
3/4 of the ball. It was way more than just the tip.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just don't know what the thought process was. So they called that a catch. They couldn't overturn it. They didn't have clear evidence. They couldn't overturn that. They called Christian Gray's an incompletion. Well, there wasn't enough evidence to overturn that. It's like being a coward. You can go against the call on the field. It's okay.
Right.
When it's correct.
And I think the accountability piece is the biggest thing. If you put this stuff on the TV screen and you make these guys accountable and you know that they're being scrutinized, I think that it makes them do their job better, because you cannot say that crew did their job well watching that game. And it's all levels. It's the field crew for picking up a flag that was an obvious flag, the pass interference in the end zone, and then it's that review there. Those are all levels, the guys on the field and the guys in the booth. None of them did their job well on Saturday.
So true. Ugly. It's just ugly, and it's embarrassing.
And to other people's points, this is not just an ACC thing. We're sitting here ripping this ACC crew, and they deserve to be. It was a different crew than the week before, but you saw an SEC crew had a really bad day in that Georgia-Auburn game, and all levels of football. You were just seeing very inconsistent officiating. We've talked about this before. A few years back, some of the top NFL officials started to retire. They kind of aged out, and they're doing different things like Gene Steratore and McCauley and Pereira. They're obviously all working in TV now rather than doing officiating. So they moved out. And so what happens is you have some of the better officials from college football move up, and That also means that you've got the better officials from high school football probably moving up. And as a result, you also have, like at the grassroots level, you have fewer people wanting to be officials, basically because they get their butts chewed out all the time by parents and, coaches and everybody else, and they don't want to deal with it. So you just don't have the quality of officiating that we probably had 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, there's and the no accountability thing is tough. You know what I mean? It should be like, European soccer. There should be relegation and there should be promotion. And if you're doing a great job, you get promoted up. If you're not, you get relegated. And I also think there should be some financial implications here, because these officials, it's not their real job. Like all these guys, the officiating is like their side job, right? So fine them. Let's fine them a little bit. You know what I mean? If you can't do your job well, what happens? You get fined.
Look, the guys, the players and the coaches, this is a 7-day-a-week thing for them, and it's almost year round now, between spring football and summer workouts and everything
and
else.
Recruiting and everything.
I mean, but the players and coaches are putting it is their livelihood. They are putting everything into it. But like you said, for the officials, it's a side job where it's like, hey, I get to be around football or baseball or basketball or whatever, and I get to make a little bit of extra money. I get to travel around, whatever. Okay, well, how much work are they actually putting into it Monday through Friday, outside of when they show up on Saturday or Sunday, or when their game happens to be? Because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of extra work going into this for them.
It's like being a weekend warrior. You know what I mean? Like, because I've known a couple of collegiate officials. They, like I said, they have regular day jobs, and then on the weekend they go and officiate. You know what I mean? Like, great job. Like, I would love to have that as a part-time job. Not that my current part-time job isn't fantastic, by the way, just in case anybody is listening. But no, I feel like there needs to be more accountability. And part of that is also, by the way, I do feel this way. Part of that's on the conferences. If you want this to be a priority for these officials, make them full-time. Make them full-time.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of money to go around. I think we can all agree on that, to have a stable of officials for your conference. Make it a full-time job. Then that's all they're worried about, as opposed to being in the courtroom on a Friday and then hopping in a jet and going to, wherever to officiate a game.
Yeah.
Make them full-time.
I think that's kind of been something that a lot of people would have wanted to see for a long time. But
the NFL's not full-time either, Sean. And
I know.
They make really good money as officials. And a lot of them are lawyers and bankers.
Yeah, I mean, especially the guys who have been around for a long time, they make, more than the average American makes, at a day job just during the football season.
Yeah, absolutely. And they all have day jobs too, right. So make them that's their job. That's their job. Let's go.
Vince, here's a quote from NC State quarterback C.J. Bailey after Saturday's loss to Notre Dame. "We knew everything they were going to do. It's hard knowing that we knew what they were going to do. We knew how they were going to play us, and they did it, and we just couldn't execute. We killed ourselves the whole game." End quote from C.J. Bailey. What do you think about that?
I think that's a great attitude to have, to take back with you to North Carolina, but that's not what I saw on film. So there is a point to where, like, for example, for the locals around here, right? Since we're on the radio, I coached in South Bend for a very, very long time. And everybody that played against Penn High School for the last 30 years, 40 years, knew exactly what they were going to do.
You knew what they were going to do, but you couldn't stop it.
You couldn't stop it, right? Like you just couldn't do it. And that is not what happened on Saturday. You know what I mean? They may think they have known what they were going to do defensively to NC State, but I just don't believe that. I believe that there was a lot of Notre Dame dictating how that game went on both sides of the football, especially in the second half. But look, I have no problem with him saying that, because that's the kind of attitude that you want to have. Like, look, we just got to clean up what we need to clean up, and we'll be fine moving forward. It's fine. That's okay with him saying that. That's just not what I saw.
you punted 7 times, you threw 3 interceptions, and you also committed a safety. Do you commit a safety? You had a safety against you. You specifically, quarterback CJ Bailey. You didn't look like you knew what was coming at you. Like,
correct.
It's one thing to say, like they are who we thought they are and that whole thing, but that ain't what it looked like, my friend. That is not what it looked like by any means. No. And again, Notre Dame's like, if you knew your offense was pretty good going into that game, it was something that had, I think, people on this side worried about. Would Notre Dame be able to keep that defensive thing going? Well, they did, and you didn't look like you knew what was coming at you. Otherwise, I don't think you would have thrown 3 interceptions against Notre Dame.
There was a lot of things that wouldn't have happened if you knew exactly what they were going to do every time. It's one thing when they've got better athletes and things. And look, Notre Dame did for the most part, in one-on-one matchups and things like that. They are the better roster. I don't think anybody's going to debate that unless they live in North Carolina. But you didn't know everything that they were going to do. I'm sorry. You didn't. And again, it's a great thing to take back home with you and prepare for your next game. But again, that's not what you or I or anybody else that watched that game saw.
No. Fill in the blank. Penn State firing James Franklin amidst a 3-game losing streak is blank.
It's a bit premature. I'll say that. I do think that firing him now is a bit premature. Maybe, first of all, his buyout is astronomical. Now, in college football these days, maybe that's not a big number to some people, but that's a massive number.
But I think this puts to rest, like, the notion that just because you've got a big buyout means you're safe.
That's fair. Fair. I've seen a lot of conspiracy theories as to, who was involved in this buyout and all of those different things, whether Adidas was involved.
I don't get the Adidas thing. I'm not connected, obviously, to anything at Penn State, but they're a Nike school for one. So I don't know what Adidas has to do.
They signed a new deal with Adidas.
Okay.
They signed a 10-year, $300 million deal with Adidas. But it doesn't start until July of 26.
So next summer.
Yeah.
So again, like, you could ride out a season. Okay.
I just don't know why that matters to Adidas. Like, James Franklin will always have them in they'll always be a 9-10 win team. Like, what more do you want, Adidas? You know what I mean? Well, yeah.
I guess they theoretically
fair.
6 more to go. Theoretically, they could have gotten to 9, but you might want to, might have needed to beat a Power 4 school to accomplish that, which they haven't done so far this year.
No, they have not, and they still won't have it done by October 17th, by the way, so if anybody's keeping track. But I do think it was a little premature, though. And now, maybe they wanted to be in the running for, some big-name coaches and things like that, and they want to be able to pounce and get their search started and all of those things. But I hate to break it to you, you can start that search whether he's in the captain's chair or not.
Yeah, so you could have left him there and been searching for your next guy and then fired him at the end of November.
Correct.
Because you weren't going to go to the playoff now. Like, that was out of the question. So you were going to go to some mid to lower tier bowl game at best. You could have done that at any point, like doing it now. And, like the thing about the buyout, kind of looking at some of the reporting on this and what his buyout is in particular. One, okay, yes, I think it was like a $47 million buyout, but it's also paid out over time.
Right.
And so part of that buyout as well is, okay, it works out to, I think, around $8 million a year if he, wouldn't have another job for X amount of years. But as soon as he gets another job, a lot of that buyout money goes away. That's not just for James Franklin, but that's for a lot of guys. Yeah. So, like, Franklin might sit out for a year or two, collect as much money as he can, and then get back in. And then in that case, he still gets some of that buyout money, but he doesn't get the full buyout money. But, again, like, I'm kind of curious to see, like, where these buyouts go in like how they structure both buyouts and contracts in the future, because look at how many jobs have already come open, and we're only 6 weeks into the season. And it just feels like there is so much more pressure now with all that between revenue sharing and NIL and all this other money that's being pushed around. And, so maybe Adidas did have some influence on that because of, whatever money they're, new money they're bringing in. But it's amazing. They were ranked number 2 in the nation 16 days ago, Vince.
Yeah.
And now they've lost 3 straight games, and James Franklin doesn't have a job.
It is. That's why I'm saying it's premature. He did go to the playoff last year. You know, he won games in the playoff. Like, he has brought Penn State to a place where they are competitive every year at a high level. You know, they won the Big Ten championship not that long ago. Like, is it still true that he can't win big games? Sure. Okay. That's always been the knock on James Franklin, right? But you're still Penn State. And firing him in October like this, in early October, they think they're going to go out and get some massive name guy. And I just don't know that that's realistic, if we're being honest. I don't know. I just don't know. I guess we'll see. Maybe they've got somebody circled, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
One thing, you know, Bill O'Brien obviously had the job before James Franklin, and you had to follow Joe Paterno, whose name was synonymous. Like, no one wanted that job. What's that been? 15, 16 years ago now at this point. Like, no one wanted that job at that point. And James Franklin did turn Penn State back into a perennial winner. Like, they were doing everything but winning the big games. And you can forgive even the Oregon loss. It was an overtime loss at home. Great game, great finish. Maybe not great game, but at least, you know, great finish, overtime, and all that kind of stuff. You can't forgive losing to UCLA and to Northwestern, especially when Northwestern is a home game.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
absolutely.
Completely unforgivable. The worst loss, the UCLA, in the last 40 years, as it was pointed out to me last week. But here are Franklin's last 6 Power 4 wins. SMU, obviously in the college football playoff, so decent, but still SMU. Okay,
right? They were a group of 5 team about 10 minutes ago. So,
exactly.
I mean, there is that,
and that's my point.
Yeah,
you got SMU, Maryland, Minnesota, Purdue, Washington, Wisconsin. Then, of course, they also beat Boise in the playoffs, but that's a group of 6 team. Those are their last 6 Power 4 wins, and then you tack onto that now that they haven't won since last December when they beat SMU in the playoffs. That was their last against a Power 4 team.
Yeah, they've beaten a Power 4 team in the year 2025, and we're in the middle of October.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a legit thing. Like, that's real.
And a 4-game losing streak against Power 4 teams dating back to Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl.
If you were in the athletic director's chair, are you firing him now?
It sounds like he and the athletic director were not best friends.
So he was looking for a reason. Is what
you're
saying?
So like that relationship probably played into it. And when you lose these kind of games and you are starting, you know, if maybe you're getting some extra pressure externally where money is attached, I can see why you make that move. Like it. And, you know, let's be honest. Athletic director probably didn't like James Franklin complaining about travel any more than anybody else.
That's a great
like
call.
James Franklin complain, you know, like things like that. You know, like you're going to lose these games, and you're going to sit here and whine about the fact that you have to take a chartered flight out to Southern California. Like, come on, man.
You know, it's funny because James Franklin's just not a very likable guy in general. I've heard from numerous people that have had to deal with him that he's just not a likable person. Like, he never turns it off. Like, that's always his personality. Like what you saw in the press conference prior to the Notre Dame Penn State game last year, like that's him. Like that's James Franklin, and he never turns it off. I can see how that could wear on you really fast, especially if you're his boss and he's doing the things that he's doing. I could absolutely see that. And the parting of ways in that regard is not surprising. So, yeah, I could definitely see that.
Couple topics to sneak in here before we finish. Vince, fill in the blank. You feel blank about Curt Cignetti after Indiana's win over formerly number 3 Oregon.
I feel like Curt Cignetti still has the most punchable face in college football. And when he opens his mouth, it doesn't make it any better. But I will give credit to IU. They went out and they took care of business against Oregon. Like I would love to bang on IU. I would love to, say that they're punching above their weight class, all of those different things. They're undefeated. and they went out to Oregon and they beat Oregon. And I think that there's a conversation where we can discuss maybe who Oregon is and what their resume looks like, and that's fine.
We're going to turn the table on Oregon now. Okay,
I said there could be.
Okay,
but I'm going to give IU their flowers. They went out and they did what they needed to do. Enough. They're undefeated. They're ranked where they should be. More power to them. You better do what you can to hold on to your coach, though, because people are going to come for him.
Yeah, I mean, the team we were just talking about is most likely to come for him. Signetti's a Pittsburgh native, so he's not far from State College and Happy Valley and, like that whole area there. I mean, I tell you what, I am like right up there with you on the He-Man Curt Cignetti haters club. Like
nice reference, by the way. Well played, little rascals.
There you go.
See,
he makes himself so unlikable, but Google him all you want, I guess. He obviously stuck his foot in his mouth before the Notre Dame playoff game last year. It came back to haunt him when he wanted to try to brag about all these ranked wins he had. But what does Curt Cignetti have right now that James Franklin doesn't have in forever?
Yeah.
He's got a road win against a ranked team. Indiana was, I think, 0 for 46, I think it was, against ranked, top 5 teams on the road all time. Curt Cignetti, second season. There he goes. He goes to Oregon and he picks up a massive win, and now his team's ranked number 3 in the nation. I do think that as much as we doubted the staying power because of the formula that Signetti used last year with all the transfers, bringing guys from James Mason with him to Indiana, all that stuff, he obviously doesn't have everybody still from James Madison, but I think he's got a better quarterback. He's got a more physical, better offensive line this year. He's got a better defense as well. Like he has built that team to beat teams like Penn State and to try to challenge teams like Ohio State. That they're a more physical and better team this year than last year. So as much as he is still not at the top of my list in terms of, guys you'd like to sit at a dinner party with probably, because I mean, let's face it, he'd just be sitting there talking about himself all night and, telling you all the great things, that he's done in his life. And the guy is winning. I doubted it. Now he has a signature quality win. And the biggest question now is going to be, can he go to Penn State here in a few weeks and beat that Penn State team as well? Because in terms of regular season games, those were the 2 biggest games on his schedule probably this year. And he's got the first one. So
yeah,
tip to him.
Oh, it's a hat tip to the whole program. It's a hat tip to him. I didn't think that formula was sustainable. And so far he's proven me wrong. And I'll admit it. So far I'm wrong in that regard. We'll see how sustainable it is. And I'm also very curious to see, okay, number one, is he going to stick around? Right. I think that's a legitimate question right now. And if he does not, what happens to this program? You know what I mean? Are they going to be able to bring somebody in that can sustain that success? Or are they going to be right back to, where they used to be? So is this a Curt Cignetti thing? Is this an IU program thing?
Oh, I think it's definitely a Signetti thing because they've tried many, many coaches before, and they had dabbling success. Like when they had Penix, I think that was the COVID year when they had Penix, and it looked like they had a little sparkle that year, and then that was kind of it. They've had a year here or there, but to go from year 1 college football playoff and now again, considering what Penn State has become and what is left of Indiana's schedule, Penn State is theoretically probably still has the best chance to hand Indiana a loss, unless they themselves have some kind of slip up along the way. They could easily run the table. They should end up in the Big Ten championship game this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I mean, it could be another rematch between IU and Ohio State. And so IU would have a chance at redemption from what happened last year, obviously. But they got the Fighting Bruins of UCLA, who apparently can do no wrong since they fired their coach.
On a roll, baby. They've won 2 in a row now.
I'm just saying.
I know. Fill in the blank. It's blank that after beating Maryland 34-31, Nebraska head coach Matt Rhule said the narrative that they're losing close games is over.
Yeah, it's not over. It might be silenced for 24 hours, but it certainly isn't over. And if you're going to be chalking up wins to Maryland to be dismissing trends, then dude, you're stretching. You're really stretching for some stuff here, man.
We're going to hold up Maryland as our see, we win close games. That's what you're going to hold up, a win.
That game shouldn't have been close, Sean. It should not have been close at all.
And that's the thing, they're 5-1, so 5-1 is better what they've been the last couple of years. But I'm sorry, like a narrative does not end with one close win. Like you have to do that a few times, and doing it against a team like Maryland, I'm sorry, you don't get to count that as your narrative ender. It's going to take a little bit more than that. But all of a sudden, maybe Nebraska works its way into the Big Ten race now.
Here we go.
Who knows?
Some new blood. I'm
just
here for
in time for Matt Rhule to become a big hot candidate. I mean, both of these guys, Rhule and Signetti, are both high on the list. Apparently, I didn't realize. I'd forgotten that Rhule played at Penn State. Like he had that Penn State connection.
And so he's got a connection to the AD too.
Yep, exactly. From I think back when they were at Temple together. So it's really interesting in terms of names that you've heard pop up. Curt Cignetti makes complete sense. And, like you were talking about it, would he stay at IU? What are the resources like there? Would they one thing Penn State has going on right now, and I think this again played into the James Franklin thing, they've got a 3-year, $700 million stadium renovation that's underway right now. So they're investing a lot of money in that. What's IU going to do in terms of facilities and those kind of things?
If they want to keep the current situation, they're going to have to invest not only a lot of money into the facilities, the program itself, the coaching staff, all of the above. They're going to have to sink a lot of money in there. So how badly does IU want it? That's going to be the question.
And from IU's perspective, I think, they only got to play in one playoff game last year, obviously, but you still get an extra cut of that playoff revenue by being there on top of, you still have conference distribution and that kind of stuff. But I think that basketball school is going to find out pretty quickly how much more money you make by being successful at football as opposed to the basketball history that they've got. So will they continue to make football a priority?
Yeah.
It's really what happens with Signetti, I think, is going to be really interesting because they did give him his chance. Is that going to be enough for him? That school that finally gave him his chance to show that he could do it on a big time level. Would he remain loyal to them, or would he make the jump for the first, really big, signature name type program that comes along and tries to get him?
Right. Yeah, exactly. What are they going to? That's the other thing. What are these other schools potentially, if they want him to come, are going to throw at him? Very interested to see.
Exactly. All right. Notre Dame USC coming up this Saturday, 7:30 kickoff at Notre Dame Stadium. That means a 4:00 game day show. I forgot to mention game day earlier today. That is coming up this Saturday. Of course, we'll have more on that throughout the week. Vince, enjoyed it as always. I will talk to you later, sir. We'll talk to you later. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.